Hi, second grade friends. Today we're going to continue with Knowledge 2, Lesson 13, and we're going to learn about Confucius. Our first vocabulary word for Lesson 13 is eager. Repeat after me, eager. Eager means to have a great interest in something or really want to do something. Our next vocabulary word is example. Say example. Example is someone or something that serves as a model to be copied or followed. Our next vocabulary word is sages. Say sages. Sages are people known for their wisdom and judgment. Long ago, in the Chinese kingdom of Lu, a baby was born. Known as Confucius, he was born at a time when all of China was experiencing great troubles. China, an enormous country, was divided into small areas ruled by many different leaders. No two leaders agreed with one another, and instead of listening to each other, they formed large armies and fought long, tiresome wars against one another. Robbers rode through the countryside hurting other people, and greedy leaders wanted to conquer all of China for their own selfish reasons. They did not care about the ordinary people who never had enough to eat and lived their lives in fear for their own safety. Confucius was born into a poor family more than 2,000 years ago. His father died when he was very young, but his mother believed that education was very important and made sure that he was able to learn from the many wise teachers in his village. Confucius also taught himself many subjects. He was happiest when studying history, learning about all the ways in which people lived before he was born. He learned that China had not always been so divided. It had once been a peaceful, united country ruled by wise sages who wanted to help their people. Confucius began to dream of a time in the future when people could live in a peaceful land led by wise rulers and their sages once again. He wanted to spread the word that it was possible to live without wars and confusion. He wanted to give people hope for a better tomorrow. Confucius decided to spend his life educating others and teaching them how to live a more peaceful life. He began by trying to convince Chinese leaders of his ideas, but they were not interested. Although the Chinese leaders refused to listen to him, other people were eager to hear what he had to say. As he taught his students how to build a peaceful country, Confucius would often begin his lessons by asking them to start with their own families. Do you fight amongst yourselves, he asked? Do you argue with your parents? Or steal from your brothers and sisters? Confucius reasoned that if people could not get along in small groups, how could they expect their leaders to control their behavior of whole cities and towns? Respect your parents, Confucius taught. Obey them and take care of them as they take care of you. If you practice kindness in your families, then you shall also practice kindness in your communities, and kindness will spread to all people in all parts of the land. Confucius's students would often ask him, "How should we treat one another?" His answer, always the same, sounded simple. "Never do to others what you would not like them to do to you," he replied. Do you recognize those words? Have you heard them before? These words have the same meaning as the saying, "Do unto others as you would have them do unto you." Many groups of people have similar sayings with the same meaning. This particular saying is often called the Golden Rule, because it is believed to be a very important way for people to live their lives. Confucius believed in the Golden Rule and felt that if people always treated one another with kindness, the world would be a better place. Confucius also believed that if leaders were able to stop all wars, feed the hungry, and make sure that people were safe in their cities and towns, everyone could live in a happier world. These were just a few of the ideas Confucius shared with others. Confucius also believed that education was very important and tried to share this belief with many people. Confucius thought that it was necessary to continually study and learn in order to become a sage, or wise person. In ancient China, as in many countries long ago, only people with money were allowed to go to school. Confucius thought that this was wrong. He believed that all people, rich and poor, should have equal opportunities to learn. Learning never stops, according to the teachings of Confucius. A wise person learns from others in and out of school. Confucius meant that although you might learn important information about history and literature in school, You could also learn a great deal about how to behave towards one another, both inside and outside of school. Have you ever heard of learning by example? If your teacher shouted all day long, then his or her example might make you think that it was the right way to behave. So you might begin to shout all day long too. But if your teacher spoke politely, then you might be more apt to speak politely too. You learn how to speak by example. Confucius had devoted students. After he died, some students thought his ideas were so important that they wrote them down in a book called the Analects. This book formed the basis of Confucianism, a way of thinking that is practiced widely around the world today, particularly in China, South Korea, Vietnam, and Japan. Schools were even created to teach the sayings of Confucius, found in the Analects. If you ever heard someone quote Confucius, perk up your ears and listen closely. You will probably hear something very wise indeed.